Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a Monday morning market review with GoPro Trading. It's Ian Giffen here, and today is the 26th of April. I hope you guys had a fabulous weekend, but we're back into the thick of it again with trading, although it has been still pretty quiet. Last week, there were some stirrings of life. We did have a few lower time frame trading opportunities, but we will run through those in a second. I'm feeling a little bit stiff myself today. We had a whole day of beach volleyball yesterday, making the most of the awesome weather. A bit misty, but nice and warm. All right, so let's have a look through all of our currency pairs, starting as always at the top with our Euro USD on the weekly time frame. So obviously not much having changed here over the last few weeks, still very much inside of the channel. We've got this continued bullish move with a third bullish impulse candle having shown itself, and also again that wave closing inside the previous wave's price territory. So nothing doing there, but that continued bullish move has given this extended bullish wave, as we discussed before, that broke and closed above the previous wave's high. So this is one very long impulse wave. But last week we did get a bit of a retracement, which gave us an opportunity for an overlay. But and in fact, we've got two in a row. But otherwise, certainly when looking at our full wave channel, we are still inside of that channel. So both weekly and daily time frame, there's not really anything available for us when it comes to our core strategies. So that's pretty typical of a lot of what's been happening over the last week. Right, Gbp USD on the cable, still very much inside of that full wave channel as well. We are still below that trend line that we broke out of about a month ago. But as you can see, over the last several weeks now, very flat here on the cable on the weekly time frame. On the daily, it respected that resistance level. I think we were talking about that last week, Monday. It did continue to respect that resistance level that we had in there perfectly. It's rolled over again and come back inside of that channel. If we do get a second phase two here, I should say, after that bullish phase one, certainly we potentially could be looking to short that with an overlay. But again, nothing core over here at all. Very much in a range. Dollar yen still in that extended bearish corrective wave or phase two. So nothing doing on the higher time frames for us. But of course, that also means that we did have that breakout here on for both the 3 and 4 wave channels, as we were talking about might happen last week. So it did actually happen. I think that was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah, Monday we did get that bearish breakout. So there was obviously therefore an opportunity to short this on a call. We got stopped out pretty much at break even or very close to it. So it didn't really work out for us, unfortunately, because it did go to target on that. So but I'm not here to talk strategy, so let's move on. The point being, though, that we are still in a bearish impulse wave outside of the channel on the daily time frame, even though it has shown itself to be a pretty weak wave. Otherwise, we haven't had a single bearish impulse candle after last Monday. So yeah, that's not exactly a sign of strength, of course, even though technically it is an impulse wave. Okay, so dollar Swiss on weekly, bearish phase one wave, as we discussed last week. We just got another bearish impulse candle following on from the previous one. So that means that on daily, we did get as well that bearish breakout. So that's all well and good in terms of the 4 wave channel. If you're a continuation trader, you would have certainly got in there. And likewise, last week, we saw that retracement wave come back up again. But on Thursday's close, I think it was, we had that high isolated, giving us reason to believe that we were back into a potential bearish phase one wave, giving us a setup, obviously, to short it on the lower time frame. This is something that we're actually still in. Still got some way to go. Nothing fancy. I think we were in one previously as well that actually didn't work out. But the point being and this is important because I think we've been talking about that in our training on technical analysis for you guys who are members. You can see that we've had that breakout of the channel with a bearish phase 1 wave. We had that retracement coming back, perfectly respecting what was support, now resistance. This really is picture perfect here. Isolating that high on the following day, meaning that that bullish phase 2 wave can be deemed to be over. In fact, it was also ringed, therefore certainly over, which means that as a result of the definition of a trend, we could assume that we were into the next impulse wave of this bearish trend. That gave Friday followed on with that bearish impulse candle as a result, but we're still sitting in that. So not a huge amount of action, but the picture is spot on. So even though it's a little bit slow, that really doesn't matter. So that's why I say there has been some stirrings of life across some of our markets. USD Cads last week was a bearish engulfing candle. With those, I'm assuming that we're going to have that high isolated and even ringed for the moment anyway. It doesn't mean that it will, because if the market comes up and makes a higher high, I'll need to reverse that analysis. But that's what I generally do with an engulfing candle. And a similar kind of picture here on the weekly time frame, where as we discussed previously, we've had this bearish breakout. It's come back and continued to respect what was a support and now resistance level for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks in a row. It's respected this resistance level. That is something that's worth taking note of. Keep that ready for you as well. And here you can see on the daily time frame, we actually did see a close outside on Friday, didn't we, of our 4-wave channel? I think it was just a couple of pips. So that technically is a breakout. Now, as opposed to what we saw on the weekly time frame, where we saw that resistance level being respected, here you can see over the course of last week, up until Friday, we saw the support level being respected. Bounce, 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 bounce. And then Friday, finally, we got an outside close. Unfortunately, it wasn't an impulse candle, but certainly it is an outside close. And we obviously can work with that. Again, avoiding strategy talk here. I'm sure you guys who are trading the core strategies know what to do with that. Okay, so moving on to Aussie here on weekly, no real change. Last week was even a more pathetic candle than the previous week, wasn't even an impulse candle, and we're stuck inside of the range, nothing doing for us there at all. Reflected pretty much here last week as well on the daily time frame, where that resistance level was respected throughout last week, although we're seeing some another attempt today, should we say, for the market to try and break through that resistance level that it was respecting through the course of last week. Let's see what happens. Today has a long way to go. It's only just after 10 a.m. And we've got many hours of trading still during the course of today. Let's wait and see what happens there. Moving on to the last of our majors and minors on the Kiwi. Similar picture as we've discussed before here on weekly. And even on daily, but with a little bit more of bullish impulsiveness, where we did in fact see an outside close last week. It was an unusual one, however, because that candle isolated the preceding candle's high, meaning that technically this was not an impulse wave. It in fact ringed that high, meaning that that bullish wave was over, and this bullish candle was in fact part of a bearish wave and continued to be so. Right, sorry about the interruption there. Hope everybody can hear okay. If there's any problems, please just pop it into the chat box. All right, so moving on to our yen crosses. We are still now with that. We had that inside bar previously that we discussed last week, potentially isolating. Well, it did isolate that high, but the question then was going to be whether this was going to be the end of the wave. And in actual fact, at the moment, my analysis may need to be updated. So let me just, in fact, do that quickly, because This did make a lower low, which means that we can treat that isolated high as relevant. At the moment, however, this being a bullish engulfing candle, a few things could happen with that, but at the moment we can just assume that this will continue going up. It may not, of course. If this candle rolls over and comes down, we will need to adjust this analysis, but for the moment this will do just fine. But what this basically means, of course, is that this resistance level here continues to be respected, and this can come up a lot tighter as well. So we're going to be doing the training on our channels later in this week. So if you're wondering how I'm drawing these HDC channels, then wait for Thursday's training, where we're going to be covering all of that. All right, so Euro Yen has been quite interesting for several weeks now. Here on the daily time frame, we have got what looks like quite a mess. We've had a lot of overlays, obviously, as it continued to remain inside the channel, respect this resistance level. Last week, we had another test of that resistance level. As you can see, continues to do that and failed at that. But having said all of that, we are potentially looking at this market to give us a bullish breakout at some point, simply because it continues to test the resistance level without the bears doing anything with the failed testing. So it is taking a while, and this really is representative of a lot of the trading conditions that we've had over the last several weeks, which has forced us really to bide our time and just sit on our hands. So trading activity obviously having been relatively subdued, which is a pity obviously for the challenge, but as I've mentioned many times, it's more about doing the right thing when times are tough than making the most of it when times are easy. All right, Gbp Yen, very little has changed for us over the last week. We did look like it was going to go up again through the course of last week, but it just came down and gave us another bearish candle here. So very much still in that bearish retracement and that resistance level being respected. It's still a weak trend technically. However, here on the daily time frame, very much inside of our channel, nothing for us to do here at all. So that's a very quiet pair. Swiss yen had a retest of the resistance level last week, but failed that test. So very much inside of the channel still. And here you can see what that looked like on daily, where we got a small winner on an overlay with that failed retest. So again, representative of the market conditions that we've been experiencing. CAD Yen, very similar picture, except that this was, as we discussed before, a phase two. So we're phase two. And yeah, last week's open gave us a reasonable sized winner on an overlay here. But nothing else has changed. So the market just came down a bit further during the course of the week, looking like that on the daily time frame, which means that last week, Tuesday, I think it was, it did in fact break outside of both our 3 and 4 wave HDC channels. But the next day immediately came straight back inside that channel again. It's not yet a false breakout. We need to have a full breakdown and sequentiality of cyclicity before we can treat that, but it's definitely not tradable at the moment. Aussie Yen, flat as can be on the weekly time frame, which likewise on daily is pretty useless. So nothing for us to look at there. And almost the same picture, but not quite here on the Kiwi. So we've got that continued testing of a resistance level, our 4 wave channel here on daily, but it remains inside of the channel. So again, nothing for us to do there at all. Trying to trade these markets is you may as well go to the casino and play the slot machines. All right, so Euro GBP moving into our Euro crosses. Likewise, as we spoke about last week, we saw this the previous week, in fact, come back inside of the channel. There's nothing that's changed there at all. So completely useless to us on both these time frames. Having said that, on daily, Friday did close outside of the 4 wave channel, but remember, this is a resistance area. Looks like it's respecting it. So We'll have to wait and see what happens during the course of the next few days as to whether the bulls actually are able to take it outside of the channel, in which case we could have a look at that for our lower time frame core strategies. Euro Swiss still here on weekly, no real change compared to what we were looking at before. And here on daily, very much inside of the channel again. So really nothing for us to do there. Euro Cads, no change on weekly time frame from last week's analysis. It was a bullish impulse candle on weekly, which gave us that bullish breakout of the 4-wave channel on daily. So that lasted all of one day after the initial breakout, and it rolled back over and in fact closed back inside of the channel last week, Wednesday and Thursday. But we are back outside of the channel as of Friday. So not really showing full strength here at all, but we are outside of the channel again. This is a sign of weakness, as you know, where we get candles closing inside the channel in the previous retracement wave. It should be respecting this support level a little bit better if it was going to be showing strength. But nevertheless, that is something that you can start potentially looking at, another sort of stirring of life, if you like. Euro Aussie flat on weekly again, and that's what it looks like on our daily time frame. Very sedate sideways consolidating market movement. Same thing on Euro New Zealand dollar, the last of our Euro crosses. You can see how the support level continues to be respected. And in fact, this bullish overlay would have been shut down Friday just before close of play for a decent winner. Had a couple of losers on overlays as well last week. Gbp Swiss, so moving into our pound crosses, as we discussed before on a weekly, this bullish trend came to a distinct end with that bearish impulse wave, and the last few weeks have been pretty flat, looking like this on the daily time frame. So nothing doing certainly for core strategies. That double bottom on the support level did give us an overlay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, which I think that was last week Monday that we took that one, and it actually hit take profit same day. Moving on to Gbp Cad Weekly, high test last week. There's nothing for us to do there at all. This is just very messy consolidating market movement. That's what the high test looked like on daily. Did give us that bullish breakout with that extended bullish candle there on Monday. So you would have potentially been looking for something if you're trading lower time frame core strategies last week, Tuesday. Do I have anything on that? No, I don't. But if you had looked for that, looking for the pullback and got into that, it probably would not have worked out. A lot of these are not taken for as we move down these currency pairs because of the avoidance of too much correlation risk. All right, so Gbp Aussie flat as always again on these pairs on weekly time frame. Nothing doing there for us at all. Yeah, pretty useless. We also had a bearish breakout here that I think we discussed before last week. Yeah, so really nothing useful for us at all, being very much inside of that channel. And it's been doing that for quite some time. All right, Gbp Nzd, technically we are still inside of this bullish trend, albeit a very weak one, as we discussed the last couple of weeks. So no change with last week's candle. It was an inside bar as well, so it might be isolating this low on the support level. So we may well see a bullish resumption over here, but we don't know. And as I say, with that weakness, there's nothing for us to be doing. And on daily, likewise, bearish cyclicity is still intact here, but may well be coming to an end, in which case we might well be looking to take some bullish overlays here. So that's pretty much the sum total of it, though. Similar picture here, but on the weekly, we are in fact still in the in a strong bullish trend. This retracement wave has got a long way to go before it can encroach on the on the channel and the previous phase 2's price territory. So there have been some signs of the phase 2 coming to an end. We've had 2 low tests. But really, that just is represented by this weak bearish cyclicity on the daily time frame. If we see a breakdown in the cyclicity on the daily time frame, it might well signal the start of a bullish resumption, given the fact that this is technically still a trend. So, our sort of hybrid manual strategies may well be looking for a phase 2, which we've got here, followed by a bearish phase 2, which might happen even today or tomorrow, in which case we'd be looking for a bullish a potential impulse trade on that one. All right, so Aussie Swiss flat again through the course of last week on weekly, with that bearish inside bar looking like an absolute nothing burger here on daily time frame. Aussie Cad, this one on weekly is showing the potential, obviously, for a valid M pattern. Last week's high test, testing that resistance level and closing back down pretty much where it opened. So we have to wait and see, obviously, what happens here. And if we look at the lower time frame cyclicity, however, we have had quite a significant breakdown in the bullish cyclicity on the daily time frame. So just going back to weekly quickly, this bullish wave here is represented by this bullish trend on daily, which came to an end last week with a phase one aggressive reversal. So effectively what we could be looking for over here is a breakdown in the cyclicity. Let me not do that. Let me just go in with my draft lines. So if we get anything that looks remotely like this, and of course this represents a head and shoulders pattern, not that we really care about that terminology when you know proper price action. It's the picture that counts. So anything that looks like that, if we get any sign of a well, if there is a phase 2 followed by a bearish impulse candle on this one, that's something that we would be looking to trade in a bearish direction because of this valid M pattern, as long as we continue to get an outside C close. Right. Aussie Kiwi on weekly, last week closed again back inside of our 4-wave channel as it had done the previous week, but it was a bearish impulse candle, so nothing for us to do as far as that's concerned. But it looks like this on daily, where we did get that breakout from the 4-wave channel, and bearing in mind that this 4-wave channel is here now after we had this high isolated, in fact that low isolated. So we've been looking since then, but there hasn't really been anything, I don't think. If there was, oh yes, there was, that was stopped out for about a half loss. So that didn't work out, unfortunately, but that's pretty much the name of the game over the last couple of weeks. Kiwi Swiss on weekly, again, nothing at all. Even our overlay is really just fast asleep, which looks like that on daily. So again, very much inside of our channels. We did have a nice winner on the overlay, but apart from that, this is really pretty much dead as a doornail, waiting for it to wake up. And another potential valid M pattern here on Kiwi Cad. It's also a valid bearish overlay this week. But we also need to see a breakdown in the cyclicity. So unlike that previous pair that we looked at where we saw a phase 1 followed by a phase 1, well, this cyclicity is in fact still intact. We did also have that bullish breakout here, which completely reversed on itself the next day. And it's come back inside of the channel again. But likewise, if we see a breakdown in this cyclicity, I'm not saying it will happen, but should we get that, then that too, for the bearish impulse candle, obviously would represent potentially a valid setup for us to short this on sort of a daily impulse hybrid using the M pattern. So potentially that would indicate the end of this bullish wave, of course, and would give us an outside C close. Right, so that is pretty much a wrap then for the 28 currency pairs that we're looking at. Have you guys got any questions for me on this? All happy? Yeah, it's definitely pretty quiet. Alberto says, looks like the markets are telling, I don't follow you there. Aussie Swiss from Impino. Let's have a look at that. Valid bullish overlay, yes, actually. Actually, no, I beg your pardon. So one of the restrictions that we're currently looking at on the overlay is that, oh yeah, sorry, if we get a phase 2 followed by a phase 2, that would be quite right. So it wasn't valid here because the preceding wave was in fact an impulse wave. However, this is not an impulse wave, so this is a valid bullish overlay, quite right. And in fact, you could have got into that this morning because this was a close in the upper half of the candle on Friday. So quite right. We're also just having a look at restricting that somewhat. So the upper half maybe not enough, maybe the upper third of the candle. So as I mentioned before, you know, the overlays are still very much in beta. So it's working out fine considering the objective of the strategy, but we're still looking for improvements on that. You're welcome, Liesel. Anyone else? Take advantage of the beautiful weather and go surfing, Alberto. Quite right. And the weather has been amazing. Well, apparently the point break at Victoria Bay yesterday was amazing. All right. Okay, so last week of the challenge, guys. Yeah, it's been as I've mentioned many times before, a bit disappointing that we didn't have more friendly market conditions. So let's see what you guys have been able to turn out. I'm going to be looking through the results through the course of this week. If you haven't yet sent us both your the login ID as well as your password, investor password is fine. For your trading account, then please do so. Please send that to Corinne at support@gbtacademy.com so that we can make sure we've got everybody covered. Muna, your comment on the USD news? Sorry, I didn't see the comment. And while you elaborate on that, yeah, so keep ticking over and let's see what happens throughout the course of this week. So we've got training again this week on Wednesday and Thursday. So we did do a poll for what you guys are looking for in terms of Wednesday training. So please make sure that you participated in that poll. If you've done that, then I'll be selecting from that what you guys want me to cover. I think the winning topic at the moment is goal setting for professional traders. But yeah, please do make sure that you let me know on that. And then of course Thursday for our members, we're going to be closing the loop on discussing the channel formation in terms of the 3 steps to heaven and being able to identify the boundaries of ranges.